Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to my channel where I talk about how to heal chronic symptoms and illness by healing old emotional wounds. And I'm talking about core deep wounds, the ones that are in our bottom chakras that are usually traumas. They're really deep wounds that occurred in those fundamental years, 0 to 7, but often even earlier than that, although can be triggered again and again over a lifetime. Typically, I'm talking mostly about attachment trauma on this channel, but you can use the techniques that I talk about in any kind of trauma that has embedded things in the body. It's just usually the things that are embedded in the body, the emotions that get trapped in the body and start causing a lot of physical problems, are the ones that happened when we were too little to handle big emotions. Big, terrible emotions like fear of lack of safety, feeling unsafe, feeling ashamed, feeling powerless. These kinds of things get embedded because they're so big for a child to feel. And when we're in an environment where we feel trapped in those emotions, that's what can cause trauma in the body. I love how Peter Levine describes trauma. He says that trauma is not something that happens to us. Trauma is something that happens inside of us. So it doesn't matter really what the trauma was. What matters is the impact that it had in the body, and it gets embedded so deeply it becomes part of our unconscious. And our bodies are our unconscious. Today I'm doing something a little different, and I've thought a lot about this because it's very vulnerable for me, but I'm gonna share a video journal that I did after going to an event almost a month ago now, and the video is the journal, but it's really me trying to coach myself, and it's a lot harder to coach yourself than somebody else. So you're gonna see me struggle to coach myself through some emotions that got stuck and trapped in my body. Some emotions were trying to come up. I got really triggered. They were trying to come up and they got stuck because of my old patterns. And then how I coach myself to get to the place of emotion and how to get to that release point. And you're gonna see me really struggle with my own mind. My happy place, my safe place is in my intellect. Talking about this, not about other things, but talking about this is like trying to figure it out, and psychology and all these things, trying to maneuver how to figure it out, how to make the conceptual framework. That's my happy place. I love that. I'm obsessed with it. This is why I'm making this channel. This is why I do coaching. This is why I do what I do. And I find it fascinating and exciting. It's so fun for me to stay up here with it. But I know that how you get healing is, yes, there's a big conceptual part, there's a big intellectual part, but how you actually do the healing crescendo, the actual shift happens in the body. And so because these trapped emotions are in the body, these are things that we're unconscious of, so they're very hard to reach. That's why you need to do a lot of conceptual work to start to reach in. I think about it as you're starting to make friends with this wound. So all the intellectual stuff that I talk about on this channel, like making metaphors and the mindset shifts and everything, these are crucial for releasing judgment, to almost convince ourselves intellectually why there is no judgment needed here, because we've been conditioned to judge these things. That's why they're trapped. So part of that work is that work of non-judgment, but it's also when we work with metaphors and the chakras to figure out what are the wounds that are there in our unconscious, what are they? We're starting to shine light on them, starting to make friends with it. We're starting to peek in that hole and be like, okay, I know there's something in there, and let's just shine a little bit of light on it, not too much. We're not gonna feel it all at once, but let's start to shine light on it. And that's a really, really essential step. I mean, you can't skip that. I have found that if you try to skip that and force it out of the body, you can, number one, risk re-traumatizations, or two, you can expel it and then you feel great for a few months and then everything starts to pile back up because the cognitive connection's not there, and you're just still coming up against these emotions, and you haven't rewired your brain and nervous system, so they just get trapped again and they start building up again. And so you feel great for maybe a few weeks, a few months, and then you start feeling like shit again. And that down regulation of function and energy starts again. So the only way to do it permanently is to do 3 parts. So intellectual work, spiritual work, and body work. And the body work for us who have things trapped in our unconscious, it means that we have this separation of mind from body, and it's harder to go down to the body. A lot of us, I have found, want to stay in the mind, and that can be the fun part because you're like figuring it out. We're like figuring out ourselves and looking at ourselves. Not for everybody, but for a lot of people, if you start on that journey, it can be sort of fun to discover new things about yourself. This is why we like these like spirit animal quizzes and all these like quizzes of find out you're this type. It's so fun because we all innately want to know more about ourselves. So if you start on this train, this like trauma train of like discovering your own trauma and how it's impacted you, it can be sort of exciting to have new discoveries and read things that you really resonate with. And it's just like, even that has its own healing power. But then it's like that shift into the body can be sometimes the scariest part, because that's the part that has been in the darkness for our whole lives. And so to shine light on something that's been in the dark for our whole lives, or before that, if you have past life or ancestral trauma that's trapped in the body, that's been in the dark for so long, it's like mangled and tangled, and like it feels like it's just like gunk in there, and it's really sticky. But that movement into the body, and so, you know, even though I'm so practiced at this and I've done this so many times, I still get stuck here. I still get stuck in this wanting to stay in the mind and think about it and figure out what is the wound and just be in this place of I see it. But that process of making that space to really let the emotion be there and feel it and try to use your words. So one reason that I make videos to journal about certain big things that I'm going through is because that act of speaking is so viscerally healing, and it's healing because it brings up emotion. This is one reason why talk therapy can be really effective, is for people who are able to access things when they speak it, and then if they are met with a very empathic and loving person and they feel truly understood, seen, appreciated, valued while they're speaking their truth and starting to release tears, that's when talk therapy is super effective. So we have to learn how to do this for ourselves, because every healing journey is our own and we can't have a therapist next to us day and night. I believe everyone can do this on their own unless you have very severe trauma. If you have really severe trauma, you need somebody there who can give you that external love, who can teach you what love feels like. But if you have mild to moderate trauma where you have had some experiences of love from somebody else, then you can do this work, because if you have that example, you can find that place in yourself where you have felt somebody else and learn how to do it yourself. That doesn't mean you can do it for yourself just by being loved by somebody, but you can use that to learn how to love yourself. So doing this like self-therapy, one way to really help get emotion out is by using our voice. And I'll never forget, there was some spiritual teacher I learned this from, and I don't remember who it was, unfortunately. But as soon as she said it, I knew that it was true, and it has affected me ever since. She said the most healing sound that a human can hear is their own voice. And that just really hit. And I feel emotional saying it because my voice has been something that has been so self-suppressed for my whole life until I got this illness and started to heal from it. It's so amazing to me. And when I think about that, even when I say that and explain that, it's really meaningful for me. And I've found it again and again and again that when I start to speak it in a loving presence, whether that's with somebody else in my life or with myself, now that I've learned how to do that most of the time. I am not perfect on this, but most of the time, if I can do that, then if I'm holding loving space for myself and I start speaking and trying on different words and different phrases of what I'm feeling, even if I don't know when I first start to speak, if I just start trying, forcing out words of what I'm feeling, what I might be feeling, something will usually hit. And then when you find something, then you follow it. So when you start to feel tears, you start to get choked up, that's when you follow it. Instead of what we're used to doing of, oh, I'm getting choked up, take a deep breath, look up at the sky and make it go away, or laugh and, oh gosh, I'm getting so emotional. That's what we're conditioned to do. Instead of moving away, we move towards. And that is the theme of self-healing. When you find pain, you don't move away anymore, you start moving towards. You move towards yourself, not away from yourself. We are re-engaging with ourselves, developing, creating, and building self-trust and the trust that's been lost. And that's happened to all of us who have suppressed emotions that have not been seen and loved. We did that. We did some self-abandoning, but it was necessary based on what we experienced in our early life. And so we have to learn how to stop doing that. And by stop doing that, I mean turning towards ourselves instead of turning away. And one way to do that is when we feel an emotion, move towards the emotion to bring it up more and then embrace it and hold it instead of running away, which is what we all want to do. It's what I want to do. Not anymore because it hurts too bad. The amount of body suffering that happens, but I still get caught in it. What you're going to see on this video is almost a culmination of 6 months of being seeped in the powerlessness wound. This is one of my huge core wounds. It is one of the ones that was at the root of my chronic fatigue. Since I don't have chronic fatigue anymore, obviously I've healed powerlessness enough to release the illness, release the giant weight on me, the fatigue. However, when I feel powerless and it gets trapped, fatigue comes back. And that happened this day, on the day that I recorded the video, and I described that a little bit, but it felt like these 2 days of this event, which was this incredible event. It was a Kyle Cease event, and I've mentioned him before on this channel. I love him. He is an incredible spiritual and oneness speaker, in my opinion, and he brings in towards him these incredible healers who are trying to do this work. And so I was seeped in a room of 700 people who are doing this same work, and they're all empaths, and they have these huge hearts, and they have like all this heart energy filling the room and all this light in their body, and they're still expelling darkness, but there's just so much light, and it just was so intense. So it was in Sedona, and that's one of the highest vibrational cities in the world according to some. And when you're in an environment that's like really high vibration, and then even more so in this room, it's like it shakes the darkness out of you. But this first day that I was at this event, it got stuck, and it felt like all this energy was trying to come up out of me, and all of my old patterning and defenses blocked it. And so you're going to see me going through a process of trying to get to the emotion and have a release, and I do have an emotional release. Yay! And that's why this is so vulnerable. I have never shared a video of me crying or just being this vulnerable. So I've thought a lot about this just because I wasn't going to share it. And then I kept having this thought that it might be helpful to see somebody else's process of sitting with and encouraging self to go towards the emotion. You're going to see probably twinges of sort of anger, resentment, because that always comes up with powerlessness. So as I was saying, I've been really seeped in the powerlessness wound for about 6 months, and I'm healing in a really concentrated way at the moment. But this is a really challenging one for me, and I have times when it gets stuck in my body, especially when like a new area of it is exposed. Like I'm working with a new chunk of that powerless wound onion, and when I haven't worked with it in a super conscious, like it's been in dark, when it first starts to come to light, my defenses trap it. It's unconscious. This is the repatterning that we're doing. This is the rewiring of our brain and nervous system that we're doing that isn't an overnight process. And it's taken me years to get to this point. My hope for you is to help you speed this process along. Back to this powerlessness wound, it got stuck. And spoiler alert, the next day, I had one of the most unbelievable, huge, life-lifting releases of my life. Honestly, I have never felt so light and bright, but that was the second day. So the video I'm about to show you is after the first day when it got stuck and how to work through that. And I also share some of the takeaways from that day that I got, some of the things that Kyle Cease said. So again, I know this is a different kind of video. This is just a little experiment, hoping that it's going to be helpful on your journey, seeing somebody struggling with themselves and working towards the emotion when it's very clear that my mind does not want to go there and it keeps pulling me away, and then to keep going back. No judgment, just keep going back. Again, this powerlessness wound is a really big one for me, really pervasive in my life, and I'm purging it, and it's long. It keeps moving in my body and getting trapped, and then moving and getting trapped and moving. So, that's the process. These are cycles, these are layers. It's not a perfect, clean thing, unfortunately, no matter how much I try to make it one. But you know, that's my own ego trying to step in. So I hope this was helpful to you. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching, I would love to work with you. I love working with clients. I love talking about your own journey and your own patterns and your wounds and fitting it into your illness and your life story and how to move and navigate from here in the healing. Because it can feel overwhelming if it's like, I need to heal all of this and move into my emotions now. And it doesn't work that way because you have to go in these steps and layers. But I just love working with people one-on-one. So if you would like some support on your journey, one-on-one support, please email me. My email is down below. And I hope this video journal is helpful to you. I hope you guys are doing well on your own healing journey. Wishing you all the best, and I will see you on the next video. Take care. Hi. I am just doing sort of a video journal after my first day at the Kyle Cease event. It's been an inner child day today on this first day. It's been quite a day, very energetically intense. It was amazing. I loved it, especially the morning, because I was able to stay present for at least the first couple hours. And then I think the intensity of the emotions and the energies around me started to collapse in my body. You know, I kept seeing all these people crying and releasing, and I wasn't able to. I was listening and I was feeling in my heart, I was feeling in my throat. But what happened over time as I was sitting there and feeling very present was I started getting physical symptoms. Headache was one, jaw pain, and the jaw pain got really intense in the afternoon, but I was really noticing it in the morning too, and neck pain on the left side and left trapezius muscle pain. It was because my head was cocked slightly to look at Kyle, but that didn't happen to everybody who was sitting in my area. You know, it's because those muscles were tense. And when they were already tense, the cocking of the head was pulling for hours and hours. The two biggest, most noticeable symptoms were fatigue, really intense fatigue that was just growing and growing and growing and growing as I was sitting there, and then the brain fog. And all of these symptoms, especially the last two, are caused by the nervous system going into the freeze state. And this is such a familiar experience. And the fact that that was happening was triggering my thoughts. So it's sort of funny how it happens where you're getting triggered, but you don't realize that you are. I did not realize that I was being triggered because I was enjoying it. I was enjoying listening to Kyle talk and interact with the people in the audience, and I was really enjoying being in this environment of all these other empaths and healers and people who are trying to connect deeply with themselves, people who are really in touch with that and want to heal trauma and want to heal old wounds that are trapped in their body and want to release all this stuff. I mean, I'm in a room full of these people. I mean, how amazing is that? And yet there was something I was picking up that I was not fully conscious of that was triggering me. It was unconscious because when there are parts of the trigger that are unconscious, or all of it, that's when it turns into a physical symptom. It's the unconscious stuff that turns into a physical symptom. And they have to have been unconscious for a long time. So then what's interesting is, as I started to notice what was happening in my body, then I started having thoughts that made it worse. So I was being triggered by the fact that I was triggered. You know, on this journey, I've learned how you heal the blocks in our life, whether they're physical or emotional. The way you do that is by healing the old wounds. And you heal the old wounds by making the unconscious conscious, getting to the wound, creating a loving space so that the emotion can come up, and then releasing it. So all I want to do is release. That's always my goal. But one thing that really hit home today is that the goal is the thing that's keeping me stuck. Me always wanting to heal, constantly wanting to heal and to cry. And I'm crying, I love this. Because speaking is one of the ways that we bring this emotion up. And if we're just listening, we're just taking in energy, we take in this energy, we're just taking it in, taking it in, taking it in. and it has nowhere to go. So it gets trapped in our energetic being because we still have wounds in us, and it gets trapped in those tangles. And so you just keep coming in and coming in and coming in, and it's trapped. And it can't go out until we release it. And one of the ways that triggers a release is with the throat, by speaking, by making sound. So all day I was just taking in information and just having it collapse in my body, and it was just collapsing and collapsing. And finally, at the end of the day, we had an opportunity to do an exercise with a buddy, a partner who we didn't know. And finally, as I started to speak, some tears came out. Not a lot, but some. And that's huge. Back to what I was saying, it's like this, what I was reminded of today, and what really hit home was the constant goal of this outcome. I want this outcome. I want to heal. I want to heal. I want to heal. And I want to cry, because I know crying is the way, because I know how to cry. And I know how to create loving space. So just get the tears. Get the tears. Just that intention is blocking my ability to cry, because it's staying up here. It's not going into the body. This is the hardest pattern for me to break. And you know what I just heard when I said that is myself talking about, if you have a pattern that you try and you try and you try and you try to break, and it just won't break, it's because it's attached to a wound. Of course it is. Of course it is. All my patterns are attached to wounds. How did I get so many wounds? I don't know. But it doesn't really matter, does it? What matters is they're in there and they need to heal. You know, when I make videos, it's all up here. And I love being up here. Why? Because it's safe. This is my life experience. I don't want to go into the body. Why would I go into the body? I know why, up here. But my body is saying, why would you want to go in there? That's where the pain is. Do you really want to feel that pain? That is scary ass pain. That pain has to do with death, rejection, lack of love, the opposite of our emotional needs being met. But I'm doing it again. I'm in the mind. And I need to get into the emotions. And I've done it. I could not have gotten to the healing place that I'm in without doing that. But it takes so long for me to get to a place of releasing emotion. If I have all the right ingredients and I'm alone and have the space, I'm like completely alone. I'm either in my car driving and there's nobody else on the road, or I'm in my room and there's nobody in the house and there's nobody threatening. That's the way I think. That's the Freudian slip there. Threatening to come home is what I was going to say, but not threatening, just about to come home. Why did I think the word threatening? Because it feels like a threat. Because it feels like I can't be safe enough to release when other people are around. This is the crux of what I am working with right now. This way in which when there are other people around, if I'm in the physical presence of other people, I become invisible. I invisibilize myself. And I don't do it on purpose. I don't do it on purpose. I don't do it consciously. And I've known that I do this. And I just can't stop. I don't know how to stop. And that's what causes my body to go into the freeze state. There are all these times when my body does go into the freeze state, like today, because I'm surrounded by other people. And that means I have to be invisible. And I just can't do it anymore. I can't be invisible anymore. It's like I've finally gotten to the place where I have enough self-love and respect that I can make YouTube videos. That took such a long time to get to. Oh my god. Oh my god. Did that take a long time to get to? But a YouTube video is like, I can press record and it's like, well, I don't have to keep the video. You know, it's okay if I fail. It's okay if I don't do it perfectly, because I can edit it and I can have all the pauses in the world. I can edit them out. I can say the dumbest things and edit that out. I can get all fumbled and jumbled in my words and edit that out. And nobody's there right when I'm recording it, because when other people are around, I am constantly thinking about where they are and what they would be thinking if they were hearing me talk, and making complete projections onto them. Complete projections of what they would be thinking, and it's usually probably wrong. It's the scared little girl in me, scared of being judged and not being liked. And liked really means loved. I was just wanting to be loved. So, people pleasing. Be sweet, be deferential, be pleasing, smile. Look nice, smell nice, feel nice, be nice. Be other people's mirror, because that's what feels good to people. And I was naturally good at doing that, so I just kept doing it. But I've got to get to the emotion. I've got to get to the fucking emotion. I got to little. I had like, what, 2 tears? What a strain to get 2 tears out for that, but this is why. Because I'm always trying to aim for the tears. And I'm trying to think about them. But okay. I want to go deeper. What is it? Being deferential to other people. I make myself invisible whenever I'm in the presence of other people. And it's fucking exhausting. It's exhausting to be invisible. Because I'm not invisible. And so to be forcing yourself to be invisible is exhausting. It's like, no wonder I've had fatigue illnesses. No wonder fatigue has been this primary force in my life. Because I'm perpetually doing this absolutely exhausting task. I'm trying to make the visible invisible. There's this big piece that I'm not conscious of. I'm conscious of it, but it's turning into fatigue. So that means I'm not conscious of all of it. I can't be conscious of all of it because it's showing up in the body, and that's the unconscious. I keep coming back to this energy of powerlessness. It's connected, but I haven't quite put my finger on how. It makes sense that if you feel like you have to make yourself invisible, it could make a person feel powerless. Or is it the other way around? I'm feeling powerless, so I make myself invisible. I believe I'm powerless, so I make myself invisible. There's something here that I'm just not getting. That I'm not... Right, this is a Kyle Cease event, right? So he would have me say for each one of these energies that they're allowed in my body. Let's just see where it goes, I guess. So you're allowed to feel powerless in my body. You're allowed to feel invisible in my body. You're allowed. You're allowed to feel powerless. You're allowed to feel less than everyone else around you. That one hurt. That one hurt to say, so I guess I should follow that. You're allowed to feel less than. 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 You're allowed. Oh, I need tissue. My eyes are burning. I'm getting mascara in my eyes. I have to get warm to feel safe enough to cry. So, in my bed, under the blanket. Oh, I got some tears. Got some tears out. Oh, it feels good. That feels good. Definitely feels better. It's interesting, I've never said that before. Out loud, I guess. About feeling less than. That was really only like one wave. There's probably more there. But I guess I can work more on that phrasing another time. I definitely feel a little better. Not quite so weighed down. I'm gonna try to get more out. Look, I'm still doing it. It's like that's the goal. It's always the goal. Which is doing a lot to prevent it from coming up, but there's like a part of me that doesn't want to believe that's true. I don't want to believe it's true. I like the striving. I like having a goal and going towards it. I guess that's a pattern that needs to be broken. It's just that the problem is not the knowing, because I know all the stuff. Because as I'm saying stuff, I'm hearing myself in my head. Or my guides, or whatever it is. I'm hearing the things that I say on the channel in response. I know what I would say in response, and so I'm not even saying that stuff. But it's because I know all the intellectual stuff. It's the feeling. Again, I've done a lot of it. But this powerlessness wound is definitely the hardest wound that I've come across. It's by far the hardest. And there were years when even when I knew how to heal, I made very little progress on this particular wound. I was healing shame and fear and all these other, and grief and anger and rage and, focusing on all these and some powerlessness, because powerlessness is part of rage. I definitely healed some, but it feels a little like healing powerlessness is the crescendo for me. It's the, if I can figure this one out, I can heal anything, And the thing is, I am figuring it out. It's just, it has been a miserable process, because for me, feeling powerless is the worst feeling in the world. The worst sensation, visceral feeling to live with, and yet it has pervaded my existence. No matter how hard I try to be powerful. I'm not powerful, but I mean, empowered, self-reliant, have agency, have resource, have authority in myself. It's a constant, it's been the most pervasive energy in my body, in my life. I've made a lot of progress on it. A lot of progress in the last 5 months, which is why the last 5 months have been so fucking hard. I've felt powerless in such a visceral way. That emotion has come up in such an intense way. But it has felt like this time it's coming up to heal, and it has, and I have healed a bunch of it. But still in there. And right now I'm seeing it in the last few weeks. I've seen it in from a whole different lens. I'm ready to release this pattern. I'm ready to release this powerlessness from my body. At least I think I'm ready. But the universe will show me if I'm ready or not. I just got some tears out. But given that this wound, this energy has been the most pervasive in my entire life, I'm pretty sure there's more. But look, I'm still talking from the mind. I'm still talking from the mind. But I guess this is a journal, sort of. My reflections from the day. There were a few things I wrote down that were super poignant in the moment, like whenever we try to defend our limitations, we have to reach into the past to do so. So if we're going around explaining why we can't do something, the only way to explain that is by going into your past. And the past isn't a reality anymore. The past is not happening anymore, except it is in your body. The only place that the past is happening is in your body. My body. It's in my body. And the limitation of that, the limitation is a lie. The pain is not. It's real pain. But the limitation that was created from the pain is a lie. And that lie can be discarded when the pain has released. There were other things I wrote down in the journal, but they're not coming to me at the moment. Because really my biggest inner turmoil from the day was that incredible fatigue and brain fog and headache and the jaw pain, and just as the day went on, it was just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. I told myself that I was allowed to feel all those things. But by the end of the day, seeing all those people cry, release, again and again, people just would release and release and release. Every new person that spoke, people would just release again. And it really did trigger this less than feeling, this feeling of less than, always less than. Everybody can always do better. And as soon as I say that, I know it's not true. But man, it sure feels like my experience, and I guess it's just because it's a belief. It's a belief that's in my body, in my consciousness, or unconsciousness, or both. When we work so hard to make things conscious, part of it might be conscious, but if it's still showing up in the body, there's still a part of it that's unconscious. And I guess if there's still a part of it that's unconscious, I guess that means I'm not ready yet to receive it. Because one thing from this day, and I so believe this, I don't think I wrote it down because I just believe it, and I believe it so viscerally. The things that happen are the things that are supposed to happen. And the things that don't happen are the things that were never supposed to happen, or at least not in the time frame that you egoically decided that they needed to happen. I loved this idea of starting to create intentions of, I want, out of whatever's coming up in the future, I want whatever is going to happen. I'm just going to get my notebook because I can't remember the phrasing. So yeah, one of the things was change intentions to, I want this to go the way it's supposed to go. And I just love that. I love that idea that there's no outcome that needs to happen here. It's just, I want this to go the way it's supposed to go. And in order to do that, you have to have a certain level of trust in the universe. Belief that everything does happen for a reason. And that sometimes takes time to believe in. We're never stuck. We only haven't shone light on it. I never knew the tense of that. Shone, shined. I don't know. It's in the dark. That's the point. We're never stuck. It's just something that doesn't have light on it yet. Something has not seen the light yet. And the next one is, the requirement to get something out of an activity will probably prevent any magic that was possible. So like if you start meditating and you're like, well, I have to get something out of this, and if I don't get something out of it, then I'm not going to meditate. Well, then you're going to miss the magic. You're going to miss the things that you are getting out of it because you're expecting some big result, some big outcome that may not be, that's not going to be. The big outcomes are never what's happening. But if you're open to all the energies, then you're going to see the real miracles that are happening. So much more happens when you hear a calling and follow it, and have no idea why. This is more of the brain stuff. We all want to stay in the brain and want to be able to justify why we're doing something, when so much more happens when you just follow a calling and have no idea why. I got a calling to come to this event. Thinking about it, yeah, I could justify why. But what happens if I just say yes and don't justify it? I actually said yes to this event before justifying it. I don't always do stuff like that. I've never come to an event like this. Start getting good at following the feeling instead of the reason. Start getting good at following the calling. And I have been really trying to do that more and more. I really want to get good at following the calling and not the reason. I mean, this is how I'm trying to build my business. I'm so tired of push energy. Oh my God. It's like trying to push your life. It's a boulder up a hill. And I'm exhausted. I won't live like that anymore. It never worked for me. This was interesting. He was talking to one woman and they were talking about boredom. So she's really afraid of being bored. And I resonate with that. I'm just obsessed with learning. And I want to constantly be stimulating my mind. Whether it's about emotional healing or astrology or spirituality or whatever it is, I constantly want to have information feeding into my brain. That's where I feel the most secure, the most safe, the most worthy. But as they were talking, Kyle said there's no such thing as boredom. Boredom is just a judgment of the unfolding that's happening from within you. But it's uncomfortable. We don't like to feel bored. Then he said, boredom is the access to your soul. That hit because, this is one thing that prolongs the process or delays the tears from coming up is not letting yourself be bored. I always feel behind on my learning. There's always something I need to listen to, or not need, but want to listen to. I just feed that brain. I'm obsessed. But if boredom is the access to my soul, and that's what I need. I feel very in touch with my soul, but I know there are parts of my soul that are still in the dark. Otherwise, I wouldn't get these physical symptoms. That the unconscious is darkness. And there's nothing bad about darkness or unconsciousness, but I want to see my soul and every part of it and love it and embrace it. I want to integrate every part of my being. I'm tired of having things in the dark. It costs too much. So I didn't take a ton of notes, but I don't know, those were really my takeaways from the first day. I'm looking forward to what happens tomorrow. I hope I have some more free-flowing tears. But that's setting a goal again, an outcome that I want to happen, and I want tomorrow to go the way it's supposed to go. And so tomorrow morning, I want to have silence to begin my day and hear what's there in my body, hear what's in my consciousness, hear what's trying to come up, what wants to come up, clear out the vessel for the day, and I want it to go the way it's supposed to go. So whether I get triggered again and get incredibly fatigued again, or if I cry, or if something else happens, it's all supposed to happen, and so that's what I want. And it's okay if everybody else is crying and I'm not, and I feel stuck and stagnant and weighed down. I'm allowed to feel those things, and if I'm feeling those things, that's exactly what I'm supposed to be feeling. And I know a lot of healing is going to come from this weekend, even if I don't do a lot of crying, because there's so much intense energy. There are going to be things that are going to be shown to me, and already have been, that I might not like, but I accept that they are there, and they want to be seen and loved. So this is a really good test, which is great, because as I truly believe, our triggers are our friends. They're our biggest allies in this process of healing. No matter how painful or unpleasant the experience of them is, they are our greatest allies. I'm exhausted. I am ready to go to bed for sure, but it's been quite a day. And I am happy that I got a few tears out, even though I'm not necessarily attached to outcomes. Though I am. It's a work in progress to let that go. Yeah, it was a really, really good and intense day. we'll see what tomorrow brings. I guess I'll make another video journal about the day. All right, I'll see you tomorrow.